Hi, my name is Jamie, and welcome to the One World, Your Story Project. We share stories from people all over the world and from all different walks of life. Because here's the thing, no matter where you are on this wild planet, and no matter what journey you have already been on, we all have our own unique story, which brings our own unique perspectives to the table. And you never know who you might inspire or completely transform simply by getting real and sharing your story. And right now, while the whole world is dealing with COVID-19, there are 7 billion people all venturing through on their own unique path. So drop in with us to hear some of these stories. And on that note, sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of the Corona Diaries. All right, we are live. Okay, so Jamie here with another episode of the Corona Diaries. Today is Tuesday, June 30th, 2020. Here with Hayden Quinn. Oh, I should know this, but I'm like, where are you live from?
It's funny how you say Tuesday the 30th. It's Wednesday the 1st of July here. So I'm in Sydney, Australia.
Coming at us from the future. I love that.
Yeah, I'm coming from the future. Sat in my little office right here in Manly, Sydney, Australia. So yeah, it's a beautiful day outside. It's perfect.
Okay, so you are in Sydney, Australia, Manly is what it's called? Okay. But you're wearing a hoodie. Is it winter where you are? What's the weather
winter,
like?
yeah. So it's we're right in the middle of winter. It's probably 17 degrees Celsius. So that's like 55, 60 out.
Okay. I mean, I don't know if that's like hoodie weather, but
it's not cold.
There's a chill.
Yeah, it's a chill. It's cold for Australians. I'm still wearing my thongs, so I don't have any shoes on. I just have flip-flops or whatever you want to call it.
Actually, that's like my favorite, to wear a hoodie, shorts, and flip-flops is some of my favorite outfits. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about life during the coronavirus. So before we get into all of that, what I know about you, Hayden, is that you are a chef. You are, I'm going to call you a TV personality. And you also have a podcast as well. And you also are an entrepreneur, owning a gym in the fitness world. And what else? What am I missing about you? Fill in some blanks in the intro here.
That's pretty much it. I guess I'm not defined by those things, but that's what I do. I love the ocean. I've got a degree in marine biology. I spent a lot of time in the US. Like you said, we've met before, and I know Harry very, very well from when we lifeguarded on Long Beach Island, New Jersey in 2005, which is freaking 15 years ago, which is absolutely wild.
That was basically how old you were when you met, more or less.
Yeah, exactly. We were super young, and I was one of my first things that I did out of school was I finished school, took a gap year between school and university, and went to the US and lifeguarded. It was pretty cool. It was, and I've made lifelong friends since then. So it was an incredible opportunity. But yeah, for me, it's a lot of TV stuff. I do the podcast, which has taken a little bit of a backward seat because we've been focusing on the TV show quite heavily recently. And then I own a gym with 2 very good mates. And I also own a couple of other businesses with different people as well, but they're not as fun.
Okay. But you're dabbling in a bunch of different worlds. Okay, I'm curious, how would you define yourself? Because I agree, like what we do doesn't necessarily define us, but you said it. How would you define yourself?
I don't know. That's a hard question. I'm a very normal person. I like to do normal things. If I wasn't living this life, I'd still be lifeguarding. I'd be very happy on the beach, relaxed, chilled. And I don't know. I'm just a normal Aussie guy that somehow managed to be able to do pretty extraordinary things with work and travel and life and stuff like that. So I feel very grateful and very fortunate to be able to do what I do every day. And sort of forging my own path, which is very nice.
I love it. And I don't know that much about your career necessarily, but my hunch from what you're saying and from what I've seen about you, because I've checked out some stuff, of course, is people know you. It must feel like you can't necessarily walk around just like a normal guy sometimes. But you're just a human like the rest of us, truly.
Yeah, it's
right?
funny. It's funny. Like in my local area, like in Manly here, you sort of it becomes quite normal for people. But if I go certain places or different parts of Australia or Sydney or whatever, people are like, oh, there's such and such, or Hayden, la di da di da. So it's a bit different no matter depending where you are. But here in Manly, it's I'm sort of like a normal guy. So and I'm around all the time. So people are like, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I'm going to switch subjects just for a second, and then we'll get right back to it. But as I mentioned to you before we started recording, on this podcast, we've been talking about racism in America and the world, by the way, because this is not just an American issue, although there are things about it that certainly are more American than others. But one of the things we're talking about is celebrities. Like Michael Jordan, for example. All of a sudden you become a celebrity and the color of your skin goes away in a way, like it doesn't matter in the same way. And what I've been saying is, well, yeah, something happens when the celebrity status comes and the humanity disappears. Like you just don't get looked at as a person anymore. It's really bizarre. Why?
I don't know. It's funny you bring that up, because yesterday my girlfriend came down and we went and grabbed lunch, and the beach is like 200 meters that way, or not even 100 meters that way. So we went down to the beach to go have lunch, and it was a beautiful day. And we're walking along like the promenade. Manly's a very tourist driven area. There's people from all over Australia, the world normally, hang out here and come here to visit. But we were walking down, I was just going to our normal spot to sit and have lunch. And we're walking along, and this old guy, or this guy is like points in my face. And I'm like, whoa. He goes, Hayden. I'm like, yeah, hey. And just like kept on walking. I'm like, you wouldn't do that to a normal person. You wouldn't just, like, I wouldn't just be walking along and see you and be like, girl in the green crop top, and just point. It's like,
and
weird.
He would never think twice to do that to someone else. But for some reason, like, it's different. I don't know what that is. I'm sorry.
I said to Jax, I was like, was that rude what he did? Or was that just like a reactionary thing? Or like, where did that come? She's like, I don't know. But that sort of stuff happens a bit. And it's a bit like confronting. It's like, why are you pointing at me? Just chill. Like, say hello. I'll happily say hello, but I'm having my lunch. I'm with my girlfriend. I'm going to keep on walking.
Just wanting to live your life. Like any other person. Yeah. And I don't know if it's rude or what it is. The reality is it really has nothing to do with you. Like in every way it does, but in so many ways it doesn't. So anyway, okay, we'll go back on topics. Like I could open a huge can of worms and go down there, but I won't. Okay. So you're in your studio is this in like your apartment, in your house? What's the actual physical space?
This is like my office. So there's like a little desk there, and then my colleague's desk there. And it's quite funny. It's probably not too interesting for people that are listening that don't necessarily know Harry and my relationship. But when Harry and Kayla were out in Australia last year, they actually stayed in here on a little like foam mattress because we didn't have any space in our apartment. So they crashed here and they'd like sleep here, and then they'd come and hang out at our house and shower and eat and do all that sort of stuff, and then crash here at night. So it's just a little workspace that we have here in Manly where we get done what we need to get done. There's no because I do a lot of food, there's no kitchen or food or studio set up. It's just purely like admin computer work.
Perfect. Okay. Which is important to have that space sometimes for.
Yeah. You got to get it out of the house.
Yeah, for sure. I love the tidbit about Harry and Kayla. That was when they were living their nomadic life. By the way, anyone that is listening to this, Harry is the one behind the scenes who is actually putting the podcast up, editing some of the work, and my business partner in all of this. And Harry and Hayden go way back, as we talked about, lifeguarding on Long Beach Island. So cool. Okay. It's weird because you were the first person that I've talked to during Corona Diaries that hasn't been in their house, because everyone else has pretty much like been in quarantine or like working from home. So now I'm like, whoa, that throws me off. Were you in quarantine at all?
I don't know. I want to look out the window and like see how many people are outside. It's pretty like, I don't know. It's different here in Australia. At the end of March, April, May, was it March? February, March? Yeah, end of March, we went into, I would never say we were in lockdown and I would never say we were in quarantine. Like I was still able to work. I was still able to come to the office. We were still able to go exercise. We were able to go to the beach. It was still like a functioning society with a number of restrictions put in place. But at no point was I told you have to stay home. Like we were advised to stay home if you didn't need to go out for work or go out for food or exercise. Like we very much stayed home, but if I needed to go to work, I came to work. If I needed to go and exercise, I came and exercised. If I needed to get food, we went and got food. It wasn't like you can't leave. And
it sounds kind of like Sweden slightly in the way that they were handling it. I don't know if you know how they were handling it.
Not really. I try to sort of, it's all a bit doom and gloom, some of this stuff. So I try to avoid a bit of it. But, you know, like Jax, for example, my girlfriend, she was very much like staying home because she didn't need to leave other than like if she was going groceries or doing exercise, which is, you know, people need to do that stuff. But she could work from home very easily, whereas I couldn't necessarily. I was able to get out and do normal things. Well, as normal as you can at the time. It's really hard to describe because everyone's situation was quite different. But yeah, at no point was it like government, like you have to stay in your house, you can't leave your house.
Okay.
It was like if you weren't essential or your work was not essential, or you know, tradespeople, guys that were building, they could still go to work. You know, you could still, you know, I needed to come here because I have my editing software and my big hard drive and things like that I can't take home. And, you know, so I needed to come to the office. Plus, it's just me. I'm not sharing a space with anyone. And then in saying that, we then continued to be able to film our TV show, Taste of Australia, with Hayden Quinn. So we recorded 6 episodes of a, 30-minute TV show across 4 to 6 weeks throughout the middle of coronavirus within New South Wales.
Okay, which is wild, and I want to know all about that. But we have to take a couple steps back first. And part of the reason I was asking you about the quarantine and lockdown is because usually I'm like, okay, is this your house, your apartment? Who do you live with? What kinds of pets? Because everybody's in their home, but that's not really applying to you in this scenario. Sounds like you travel a lot in general. So, before we get
where we're at now, it's 1st of July, Australia or New South, every state is a little bit different, but where we are now, we're completely free to go about work and life. We just have to respect social distancing. There's restrictions on rooms and spaces. So this is a 22 square meter room and you're allowed 1 person per 4 square meters. So I could legally have 5 people in here. So it's all to do with spaces and sizes, and you're allowed to go to the beach. You can go sit at a park, you can sit at a bench, you can go to a restaurant, you can go to a pub, you can go to a bar. Everything is pretty normal, except the size is restricted purely because of square meterage.
Go ahead.
Yeah, 1st of July, we're pretty much back to normal with a lot of small weird things that we need to adhere to.
Which is what people want to do in the US and are doing, but we shouldn't be there right now at the time. So it's interesting. I was laughing because I was thinking I don't know if this is a thing in school in Australia, but certainly here, and I imagine it's the same. Everyone's like, why are we learning math? When are we going to have to use it? Well, you got to know math to be able to calculate how many people can be in the room, how many square meters. It's so funny.
Exactly. But, I feel like the Australian government we had a horrific 2020, our bushfires over the summer were worldwide news, end of 2019 into 2020. That was handled pretty well, but probably not as well as it could have been. And then we've come into the coronavirus and things have really just like excelled when it comes to leadership and people making the right decisions. There's been some tough calls that people have had to make, and a lot of people have struggled through this, but the government and the state governments have done an incredible job in like mitigating the spread and being able, like letting us now be able to get back to sort of normal. Plus, we've had a huge amount of economic stimulus, which is absolutely incredible from a personal level for individuals to businesses. It's been pretty amazing. So I know that in the US, you guys got like a one payment handout thing, like $1,500 or something ridiculous. We have what we call a job keeper or a job seeker, depending on how you're employed. And if you have lost your job or, lost work, which is $1,500 a fortnight. And it basically continues until you are back to normal. So
$1,500 a what? A what?
Fortnight. So $750 a week.
Okay. I was like, what does that mean? Fortnight.
Fortnight. Okay. No, yeah. So every 2 weeks, people that are able get $1,500 for their life to live. And then from a business point of view, there's different business grants and tax exemptions and all sorts of stuff that have been put in place to enable people to continue to grow their business and sort of
Where's
ride
that
out
money
the storm.
coming from?
I guess they're just pulling it out of the budget. And it's
the budget.
Yeah, it's gonna have to be paid back somehow, but it's
that's what I don't understand. It's like, that's amazing. It really is. And I love that people don't have to worry about basic needs being met. I am a big proponent. I mean, there's lots of talk about universal basic income. This was before before coronavirus. But in a way, and it's kind of like what you're talking about, kind of. But where does the money come from? And at what point do we just say fuck it to the regular way of this paper money? Do we really need that? Should we rethink the way the economy works and global economy at that? Because how many countries are in debt? Oh, we're just going to go to the mint and print. The US is in such crazy debt. And somehow we're doing this. It doesn't make any sense. So, okay, we got to go back in time, Hayden, before we go into these details. I want to know, and you mentioned the fires because the timing of all of this is so interesting. When do you remember first hearing about the coronavirus, COVID-19?
Pretty early on, I guess. Probably start of the 2020, around Christmas, I think. I listen to a lot of Joe Rogan podcasts, and he's always got the finger on the pulse with a lot of things. And then also my girlfriend Jax, her brother goes out with a girl from China who lives in the US. She's an American, she's a Chinese citizen, American resident, and her family's from China. So there's a lot of firsthand information coming from her and her family. So yeah, I heard about it very early, but I guess it's one of those things. The Australian, this is a good and bad thing. Australian way of life and the Australian philosophy is nah, it should be right. It should be right. It's okay. It's over there. We're over here. It should be right. But it soon became apparent that things were not going to be all right. And I think that's why our government was quite swift to act and quite swift to shut our borders, lock us down, and keep people out.
Well, how fast did that happen? And you're so much closer to China than we are. So when did that happen? When did things get serious?
I think it was in March. Is it March? Yeah, probably end of Feb, March, got pretty serious. There was one big incident where we had a cruise ship come into Sydney, and that had some ridiculous number of cases on the boat, and that spread on the boat, and then they released them into the community without quarantine, and that sort of fucked things up a little bit. And that if we didn't have, I haven't said this, but I'm no expert, I'm just talking from what I know and what I've heard, but if we controlled that little pocket, that community, then we probably would have been in even better position than when we are now, because that was one of the big flare-ups of coronavirus came off that one cruise ship. but yeah, that was sort of like where it got really real, where the cruise ship thing happened and people were like, oh God, this is pretty hectic.
It's really crazy how one cruise ship, one meeting, like the meeting that happened in Boston in the States, you know, that one thing,
Yeah.
that's it.
Explodes.
It's crazy. But
It's
okay,
wild.
so lock down the borders. And I know at least like, okay, you even mentioned it, like where you are, a lot of tourism, a lot of international travelers.
Yeah.
How did that impact Sydney? All of a sudden borders are closed, people aren't traveling.
Yeah, it was pretty evident pretty quickly. You know, like I said, Manly is very much a tourist town. If anyone's watching has been to Manly or lives in Australia or, you know, whatever, they know that Manly's somewhere. You get into Sydney, you go to Bondi, you check out the Sydney Harbour Bridge to Opera House, you get on the ferry and you take the ferry to Manly and you go to the beach, have fish and chips. Pretty iconic sort of setup. And yeah, where my office is here, just out my window, is like the main thoroughfare from the ferry to the beach, and like constant stream. Like you can see when the ferry comes in, because there'll be like this wave of people that just like walk down the Corso, because the ferry holds like 900 people or something ridiculous like that. And in summer in particular, you just see them coming like every half an hour. There's like people coming. And then when everything's shut down, this is just like personal observation. Like the traffic outside basically died. The ferries slowed down. Everything sort of stopped basically. And it was just locals out and about. There was no traffic on the roads. All sorts of stuff happened. But I think the biggest impact is obviously has been on, you know, all the small businesses that rely on those people to pick them up, keep them ticking along.
Absolutely. I say the small businesses, but like there are also industries like the cruise industry that, you know, you would think is kind of, I don't know if I would think it was unshakable. I think like the younger generations maybe don't like it as much, but like kind of getting destroyed. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, let's talk about your industry a little bit. Let's specifically, we can talk about film, right? Because you were just wrapping up the season, and I've been wondering, like, how are we going to get new shows? Like, how are people going to film and like be together?
You can buy my show and put it on TV in America. There's a good solution.
Maybe we will, but like, what happened? So, you know, you start hearing about it in January. Yep. She'll be all right. Shit, it's not all right. Our borders are closing. Like, it's only, what was the conversation happening amongst the crew? And I mean, had you already started filming at that point?
So it's at that point, I had been filming a very large TV show called MasterChef, which you guys have in the US. It's an international name. So basically, it's like a cooking competition. So we've been filming that show
with Gordon Ramsay, yeah?
Yeah, Gordon Ramsay turned up on our series, which was pretty awesome. First episode. He's an absolute legend. I've spent a bit of time with him in the past, and he's an absolute cracker of a bloke. Very, very calm.
Absolute cracker of a bloke. I love the sayings. I want these sayings.
So yeah, he's a legend. But yeah, we'd been filming MasterChef since the 6th of January, and I filmed up until sort of the middle of March. And that was when I was
so you were filming
eliminated.
Another show already.
So we were filming like a huge production. So there was like 150 people on set, say. So it's like,
was there ever a conversation of stopping it?
Yes. So when I left, prior to me leaving, it was a thing and there was like measures in place. But then when I left it, the government then ticked into place all these like regulations around spacing and size and number of people in rooms and all that sort of stuff. So I never actually had to deal with the production when it was in like quarantine or lockdown or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, so everything changed for them after that. Basically, I went home, which was amazing. I actually went on holidays with my girlfriend. And then while we were on holidays, just up the coast, in a little caravan park, which was amazing on the beach. That's when everything kicked into gear. And for me, the biggest change is just sort of going away from film, but it's sort of in chronological order. So we went into lockdown, everything had to shut. The biggest impact for me was we had to shut our gym that we own. So basically, different industries were shut at different times, like bars and restaurants were shut. You know, weddings were shut, funerals were shut, gyms were shut, all at different sort of times, a bit of a staggered, weird approach. But basically we had to shut the gym pretty much immediately. We foresaw the fact that this was going to happen, and we quickly had to pivot to an online platform. However, in saying that, you know, we lost 80 members in 3 days, and, you know, we've only got 200 members. So 80 members is a big chunk of our, you know, our revenue and our income. But of course,
well, going back to math again,
yeah,
it's almost half. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. So
how long was it? It's the Cube, right?
The Cube Gym, yeah.
How long had it been open for?
This is our 6th year. Yeah.
Okay, so established.
So it was kind of tough because we, you know, they say if you can get through like the first 5 years of small business, then you're sort of going to stick around. So we just we'd like slowly been like getting there. We got to 6 years, and we just recently employed like someone that came on as full-time, like a business manager role, you know, really starting to develop. Our community was feeling really strong. We were feeling really good. We're starting to generate much more revenue, and we can actually start putting some money away to think about opportunities in the future. You know, all that sort of exciting stuff was happening. And it was just like immediately, you know, loss of membership. We couldn't obviously charge our members the same amount of money that they were paying because they weren't getting the service that we would normally provide. And like, obviously people had to cancel like non-essential expenses because they lost their jobs. You know, if you've got a family, a mortgage and all these things, you're not going to pay to go to the gym when, you know, you can't go to the gym, or pay to do some online thing. You just cut it. And we completely get that. But our priority was, one, to keep our staff employed, keep money ticking over for them, and provide some sort of connection, service, health and fitness thing for our members. And we really quickly pivoted to an online platform. And yeah, we bought 4 tons of kettlebells, so $16,000 worth of kettlebells, and we gave them all to our members. So we thought we wanted to invest in our members and our community, and said, if you stick with us, we're going to give you these kettlebells, and we'll provide an online platform, and you'll pay $35 a week. And over 50%, I think it was 130 people in the end, were members on that $35 a week membership with their kettlebells and their videos. And basically that kept staff employed, rent paid, and the business alive. And that's what got us through. And now we've been open for about 2 weeks now, and we're sort of back to normal, which is amazing.
Wow, Hayden. I mean, you said at the beginning of this, at some point, you're like, you know, I'm just a normal guy who got really lucky with all the things he's able to do in his life and these business opportunities. Fuck that. You made it happen. I can tell, like, clearly. I mean, you figured, I mean, I've heard, I'm a yogi, I should say. And definitely like have taken a shit ton of Zoom yoga classes. And know about my aunt. She does Pilates. She's doing Pilates classes, you know, you're like a month-long challenge, whatever. Never heard of a gym sending them, like, if my yoga studio was like, oh, you're practicing at home now, here's a mat, here's a block, here's a blanket, here's a strap, here's a bolster. What a difference that would have made in how I felt like they cared about me as a member, and how I cared about them as my gym, you know,
that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to show that we're willing to invest in our members and our community, and it's in brilliant. The hopes that, they will like respect it, stick around, stay with us, and then obviously keep fit and healthy, because one of the big things we wanted to make sure is people's, you know, physical health is so closely linked to your mental health, as you would know so clearly. Yep. And particularly when you're locked up, you're not doing the same routine, you're not going out and socializing, you're stuck at home with the same people. We wanted to give that opportunity for people to relax. So we had kettlebell workouts, we had meditation, we had yoga, we had Pilates, all sorts of different things on our app that we built very quickly. And it was great. And it's, you know, it's a platform, and I feel like there's so many businesses out there that have been able to do this pivot and think differently about how they go about their business, that will hopefully continue on into the future, because it's another avenue for revenue and opportunity. And say a member goes, oh, I'm going to go away for a month, I'm going to cancel my membership. It's like, well, why don't you just keep your membership and pay X a week and you get the videos and this? It's like another selling point. Yeah, we got people over in the US, we got people in Ireland, we got people in Scotland that are doing the program. It's really cool.
It's really cool. And there's a part of, I mean, I'm sure like there's definitely some people like, why didn't we think of this before? Like, why did it have to take this to be able to have a global membership? Unfathomable when you're only having a brick and mortar location.
Exactly.
And what will the future look like? I was going to say, are you planning on keeping this online thing? But I feel like you already answered the question. But
no, definitely. We're definitely keen to keep it. It's obvious it's a big expense to pay for the platform. I think it's like $400 a month or something like that, US, which is like, when we're talking Australian to US dollars, again, you need to pull out the maths. It's a lot of money. But yeah, so we want to keep it. But again, like now, 1st of July here in Australia, we're able to, because our space is quite large, we're 900 square meters or thereabouts. So it's a massive gym. We're allowed to have one person per 4 square meters. So we can have upward of 200 and something people in the gym, which we never would have anyway. Like, that's not the style of gym we are. We don't pack it out. And then we have to have only 20 people per class. So our gyms purely run on classes and group exercises. So 20 people per class. Everyone needs this is a rule that we've instated. Everyone has their own equipment for the whole session. It gets wiped and cleaned and all that sort of stuff. And then everyone's got their like 1.5 square meter area that they train in. So it's all very safe and sanitary and all that sort of stuff. No showers, no water fountains, all that sort of stuff is gone. But I think people are really into it, and everyone's been flooding in because they just want to train. And there's only so much online Zooming yoga and workouts you can do before you're like, I just can't do it anymore.
Well, I mean, I was going to ask, like, are people actually showing up? Because I mean, the best word, I don't know if it's the best. I would just say, and it's really 2 words that make one, is like my word of 2020. I mean, this is just such a mind fuck, all of it. Because like people here want to go out too. Same kind of thing, like done with the screen time. But then at the same time, and this is clearly not happening in Australia, not really anywhere else in the world like it is in the US, while things are opening up more, the numbers are going up more. And not in every state, but in a lot of states. So like my yoga teacher yesterday, someone was asking him on the online class, like, how was the in-person class this weekend? I mean, literally 2 people came, which is actually great because then you don't have to worry, really.
Yeah.
But then it's like, what's the point of opening and still paying for the brick and mortar? I mean, it's just, I don't know. But people are showing up at your gym, it sounds like. People are really living normally.
So our first weekend was a Saturday, our first day open, and we ran 4 20 people classes in one morning. So we had 80 people through the gym, basically from 6 a.m. till sort of 11:30 in the morning. We had like classes rolling through, and we had 80 people coming through.
Full classes, you said classes up to 20.
Amazing,
I mean,
it's been pretty cool. And we run like nearly 60 classes a week. There's like a huge number of classes a day. So people are spread out. There's heaps of options. A lot of people are still working at home, so they can come at like 9:30, or they can come at 1 o'clock, or they come at 3:30. They don't need to be like jammed into like the 6 a.m. or the 6:30 p.m. sort of class slots. So and everyone's really respectful. Everyone understands that we've got to all play the game. We actually had the health inspector came yesterday to the gym and just gave us like big ticks all along. We're doing everything we need to do. Everything's kosher. So
beautiful.
Yeah, we're really happy. Yeah, really, really happy.
As you should be. I'm happy for you. I love it. I love it. Way to like, you go.
No, I was just going to say, we're really fortunate that the community has been so supportive of obviously what we're doing as a gym. But I think this whole pandemic in general, the Australian people have sort of really got it, and they're paying attention. Like in saying that, we don't have to wear masks. There was never been a stage where you have to wear a mask outside, any of that sort of stuff. but people have just been respectful and understanding that if we do this, we sort of got to do it together. And it's proven that we've worked through it, which, well, fingers crossed. There's been a little bit of an explosion in the last couple of days in Victoria. So they've shut that state down, but it's like, you know, it's nothing compared to what you see on a global scale or over in the US.
Well, I feel like that's part of, like I was mentioning Sweden earlier, and that's part of what I've heard is that they didn't have to say absolutely like no going out or enacting these like very strict rules, because it was like the whole community got it. Like, I got to do my part, you do your part. We're all in this together. There's little guidelines, follow them, and we'll be good. I don't know why it's so hard for people to just do that, because it's fuck you, it's freedom. I'm going to do what I want.
Yeah, you got too many rights over there in America.
Oh my gosh, it's a whole other story, Hayden. Okay. Okay, just for sake of time, let's go back to the filming.
TV, yeah.
And by the way, the last thing I'll say about the gym, because it's really beautiful, like a very humble person. It's genuine. I can feel that from you. I think that it's cool that you said, oh, it's nice how the community's responded, but it's cool how you showed up for the community. Like I said, I've never heard of a gym sending all of their members, I was going to say employees, members, their own equipment, especially at a time when you're financially strapped. I mean, that's huge. So
yeah, we have to make it, that was a big investment. It was like I said, $16,000 worth of gear. It's like when we're about to go into a time where there's potentially no income, but it was definitely worth it. Up. Yeah, and now we've got so many kettlebells in the gym. Everyone gets a kettlebell.
Like Oprah for the gym.
Yeah, like Oprah, you have a kettlebell. Yeah.
I love it.
But no, thank you. Appreciate that.
No, thank you. Okay, yeah. So MasterChef was starting to get weird right as you got out, which... Yeah,
I got out, which was good. And then I got into like gym mode, and then gym mode sort of cleared up, and then we went into filming Taste of Australia with Hayden Quinn, which is my TV show, which I sort of executive produce and co-create with the team at Boomtown Pictures, which is sort of our co-production arm. And yeah, we were very, very fortunate to be able to get a number of exemptions to be able to travel and work within the state of New South Wales, which is a large area, a very, very large area. Australia is a very big place. It's like huge. So being able to just work within New South Wales, we got some incredible funding from Destination New South Wales, which is the government tourism body that represents tourism within New South Wales. Plus Tourism Australia came on board and were like, we love the show. We want to get behind it. We can see the value in what you're doing and the ability for you to create content at this time that will then seed out. First episode goes to 25th of July, and basically get people excited about traveling locally and traveling regionally and supporting local business. And that's basically, we couldn't have got the timing any better with coming out of lockdown, people being able to travel and now seeing the show and going, oh my God, I want to go to Glen Innes, or I want to go to South Coast, or I want to go North Coast, or, you know, promoting these local businesses. And to be able to do that, we obviously had to follow a number of very strict guidelines around spacing, social distancing, keeping separate. There was no like handshaking, there was no hugging. Like, you know, on TV, it's like normally you turn up, oh, hey, how's it going? You know, pleased to meet you. Thank you. Welcome to my farm, or welcome to the amazing tourist attraction. You know, as someone that I do a lot of the stuff, there's people I know, and there's like hugs and there's like shows genuine connection, but it sort of was a bit like, hey, how's it going? Which is a little bit weird for TV, because you want that, like, you want it to look like chemistry and connection on the screen. But, you know, everyone was really respectful, and we did a lot of research and a lot of planning. And if we called up, you know, a beef farm and we're like, hey, we're coming, you know, it's Taste of Australia, this is what we do, you probably saw last season, we want to come. And if they were like, oh, city guys, coronavirus, we're a bit, as soon as there was any sort of trepidation, any worry, any like, we were like, it's okay, we're not coming. Like, basically we shut it down, and we would only go and visit and see people that were really happy for us to be there, really excited to have us, and really comfortable with, there's only 6 of us. So a very small crew, 6 people from the city to come and be in their space, whether it be their home, their farm, their workplace, whatever it is. And everyone was really excited. And I think it was because they knew that the opportunity for promotion and the fact that we were going to come out of this at one point, they saw the value in putting their brand out there and getting excited about people traveling again and visiting and supporting local business. So yeah, we were going for it.
Okay, this is so cool, because I was going to ask, like, how the hell did you get an exemption? Like, why were you essential? But I mean, when you think about it from the perspective of commerce and really that, like, you were going to stimulate the economy, and it's so smart to think of it in that way, because there's so many articles coming out about like staycations, and I'm in Colorado. So it's like, oh, here's what you can do in these small mountain towns, which have always existed, but like that you wouldn't think of necessarily in the same way. And it's so true, travel, because people are still going to want to get out and travel.
100%.
But we have to do it locally. So what a cool way.
Yeah.
How did that work out for you? The timing of all of this, Hayden. The universe has your back.
The universe has our back, and as well, the team at Tourism Australia and the team at Destination New South Wales, they were really at the forefront and on the front foot around, okay, the time is now. We need to create this content now that's going to come out at the time people are going to be traveling. And it's like, it's a big risk for them because obviously money is very tight. It's a weird time with cash flow and all sorts of stuff, but they foresaw the future and they backed us. And I'm so grateful for them getting behind us and allowing not only, there's 6 of us. Yeah, that's great. But that means there's 6 people with a job. I was able to employ 6 people and, they all got work. They all have families. They all have mortgages. And it was like 4 to 6 weeks of solid paid work, which is
well, and you also
huge.
Might be giving those restaurants work and business that you went to. And that moment that you were there filming, you give them a sense of like, well, it's definitely not normal life to be filming probably at the restaurant in general, but like, you know what I mean? Like a sense of like, we're still doing this, pride of the rest. I mean, there's a lot of value in what you did that 100%. Cannot be measured. How cool. And I love that. Like, I think, I'm assuming here, but we'll see what happens come July 1st and July 25th when this comes out. But the people that you chose or that chose you by saying, yeah, you can come, will also be the same restaurants that are welcoming more to the public, have done their shit, and like people will know, because those same people that were nervous are probably going to be nervous about opening, and that shines through,
Yeah, no, 100%. And, we're not far off. There's people going on holidays and booking trips and jumping in their car already. We had a long weekend here in Australia. Another thing this great country is so good for. We have many, many long weekends and public holidays. So people are willing to get out and start spending their money, because prior to coronavirus, the theme and the excitement for Australians as a whole was to get out and travel regionally. And that was off the back of those crazy bushfires we had, because so many communities were devastated from the bushfires and impacted by that people were already wanting to go out and travel to regional communities, travel to communities that have been affected by bushfires and support that local sort of vibe.
And you already had this community supporting vibe, whoa.
And we've got the best country in the world. I've got no problem saying that.
Not that you're biased or anything.
Everything. You can have everything here in Australia. We got white sand beaches, we got coral reefs, we got rainforests, we got deserts, we got mountains, we got snow, we got everything you can ever imagine.
Okay, fine. I'm coming. Fine.
The mountains aren't like what you're probably like looking out your window at, but maybe
no, there's no
hills.
mountains out my window. I wish there were. I'm in the city.
Okay.
No, I've never met one person. The only complaint about Australia, is that it's expensive. But like hell, I mean, if that's the worst thing, come on.
It's not too bad when your exchange rate's like, 50 cents to the dollar. It's pretty good. When I go to America, if I take $100, I've only got like 100 Australian dollars, I've got like, 70 US dollars or something ridiculous.
I know what you mean.
Automatically gone. But I also feel like with the coronavirus thing, and there's a bit of research coming out about this, is the fact that Australians as a whole and sort of in general live a very outdoor lifestyle.
For sure.
And coronavirus hit our country sort of, February, March, April, even still today in the middle of July, I was outside in the sun with my shirt off. It was hot in the sun. It wasn't, I still wear a hoodie, but I can if I'm out of the wind and I'm in the sun, it's beautiful. There's people swimming, there's surfing, all this sort of stuff. And there's a bit of research coming out that the virus is really heavily affected by UV light and sunshine, whether it be natural or artificial. So it's sort of, I wonder if the fact that we do live quite an outdoorsy, healthy lifestyle, it sort of is like that. I don't know. I know Colorado is a very outdoor, rugged sort of state where people are doing outdoor activities and all sorts of stuff. I wonder if like states that are more active and outdoorsy are less impacted than, say, New York City, which is very much piled on top of each other, living in a rabbit warren, less light, more work. I don't know.
I don't know either. Now you say that, I'm thinking about it, because then I'm also thinking about like one of my best friends is in Playa del Carmen in Mexico. And like they're outside all the, but it's not active in the same way that you're talking about, like truly outside all of the time. Not just like, hey, I don't know. That's going to be interesting to think about. I was also thinking, I wonder what's going to happen now that you've switched where we were in winter and now it's summer. Think about what does the weather make an impact? I don't know. It's just going to be so interesting. Like you said, there's a spike in Victoria. I don't know why. We're going to.
Well, they're trying to pinpoint it, but I think there was some link to people coming off the back of Ramadan and Eid. So the religious holidays, when churches reopened, there was a lot of like congregations and people coming together in smaller spaces. And I think there was a little bit of contact between different communities in that way. So I think they're just going to try and go back and stick to that 4 square meter like rule. But I don't know. We're just so fortunate. And even right here where we are, where I am in Manly, that was one of the hot spots in Australia for coronavirus. And I think, again, because it is, I don't know, a higher, denser population or whatever it was. But yeah, tourism, there's people coming and going. There's a lot of movement, a lot of back and forward to the city. But, during the height of it, I was like hand sanitizing, hand washing. Prior to coronavirus, I'd be like, oh, you don't need to wash your hands. Like, obviously, when I'm cooking and doing things like that, always washing my hands. But like any other time, I'm like, oh, don't wash your hands. It's good for you. You need the bugs.
Me too. I'm all about like,
and now I'm like, oh my God.
Made dirt don't hurt, all that shit. Which like, okay, there's this whole other theory about how like we're going to screw ourselves because now we're all like
freaking out.
Don't have any bacteria or anything because we've been sanitizing too much. Like there's something to be said about building up your own antibodies. So okay, I got to ask you a couple questions that I ask everyone.
Go for it.
Which is hard because I'm like, oh, there's so much that we could talk about, but I want to respect your time. So, and you're kind of like getting out of this, basically back to normal in Australia, but clearly it's still there. So we're not out of it. So I'm going to ask you the same question I asked everybody else. If you could predict the future, Hayden, when are we getting out of this? And I mean we, like the world.
Never. It's always going to be here. It's like, I don't think coronavirus is ever going to go anywhere. And even if we get a vaccine, it's not going to be a one, jab cure. You're not going to give everyone the vaccine. For starters, not everyone's going to fucking take it. And, secondly, these things mutate and change all the time. So I think we're just going to have to live with it. This is the new normal. We're going to have to understand that this exists and we're just going to have to continue on with life. And I feel like you see that sentiment quite a bit in the US, but I also feel like you guys are a fair way behind us. Whereas now in Australia, people are like, okay, it's here, it's happening. We need to get back to business. We need to get the economy going. We need to pay the bills. We need to get the family fed. We need to pay the mortgage. I got to go back to work. We got to open the doors. And if someone gets coronavirus, we're ready. We're like, the hospitals are stocked. The ventilators have been made. The beds are ready. Like, everything's ready to go. And if you get it, it's just going to be a part of life. And I think the key is be as healthy as you possibly can, eat as well as you can, keep your vitamins up, stay outside, get some sun, live a healthy life. And then hopefully if it is contracted, whether it be, you get the cold, or there's so many things you can catch, you're ready to fight it off, and you've got the strongest and best body to do that. I think that's going to have to be what happens going forward.
Unfortunately, I don't disagree. Especially because it's already mutated, and like the flu, I've never taken the flu vaccine, and I took
it this year.
You
did?
Took
it this year.
Whoa,
yeah, I did.
Wild, interesting. I mean, I've gotten the flu once. It was like 5 years ago, knock on wood. And I mean, it sucked. Sucked. I hope I don't, have an interaction with the coronavirus, but I mean, there is something to be said about Darwinism and herd immunity. And I mean, we can't live like this forever. We do have to get out and live our normal lives. And the thing that like is the mind fuck for me about like, oh, just be as healthy as possible so you can fight it off. Like sometimes those like us younger people that are healthier, like we're not dying, but like having effects like 90 days later, like long last. So it's just like, there's so many unknowns that are weird, but yeah, I don't know if we're ever really getting out of it. Someone said it also really beautifully, like maybe we'll get out of the virus, like learn how to deal with it. Like you're saying, have the hospitals prepared, which for the most part, many of them are now, but it's mentally never, ever getting out of this. I mean, the person that you were on January 1st, 2020, there's no way that that's the same person that you are today.
Well, even one of the funny things I always say, me and my girlfriend, you sit down, you're watching Netflix, you're watching normal TV, and you see people like hugging and kissing and like touching, and you're like, whoa, that's weird. Like, why are people doing that? It's like, it was so normal for so long,
and then
it was so weird. Yeah.
I don't ever want that to not be normal, but...
I know it's wild, but I think we just need to do as best we can and try and stay as healthy as we can. And my biggest worry is, a lot of like international travel. I love traveling. I travel a lot for work. Plus Jax, she's an American citizen. She's an Australian resident. So she wants to go back and see her family, but she also doesn't want to go Sydney, LA, New York, Nantucket. And like all those touch points, she's got older relatives, she's got her family, business. Like she doesn't want to there's so many spots you can connect with along that route. It's like 72 hours to get to Nantucket from Sydney or something ridiculous. And yeah, it's kind of scary. I'm just trying to say, just get your parents to come out here when they can. It's much nicer. It's much more relaxed.
It's weird. It is scary. And I don't even think it's just scary because of all the touch points and like, not only like, I would think also the more of the worry is not her necessarily getting it, but somehow having it and giving it to like her parents or something like that she's visiting. Yeah. But like, will she be able to leave the US when she goes there? Because I've been hearing things like, for example, the EU is trying to figure out which countries they're going to let come in for traveling. Yeah. And they're very much considering not having the US be one of them.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah, it's hard. Well, Jax is very lucky. She just received her permanent residency. So that means she can come and go from the country whenever she wants, which is amazing. But yeah, 100%.
Oh, because she'll like almost be viewed as a citizen.
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
okay.
So
that's lucky as hell.
You know how I was talking about the $1,500 a fortnight payment?
Yeah.
She's not a citizen. She's a permanent resident, yes, but she still gets $1,500 a fortnight because she's out of work at the moment, which is pretty damn good. I don't reckon if I was in the US and I wasn't a citizen, I'd be getting any handouts from the government.
Not a dime, not a fucking dime. God.
It's classic. But then even we're talking about like moving forward in the future, Jax's uncle lives in New York. He didn't leave his apartment for like months, but then he went and got tested so he could go back to work, and he had the antibodies. He'd had coronavirus and he didn't even know. It's like, and then his wife who lives with him didn't have coronavirus, and they live together in a tiny loft apartment.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, Hayden.
So like we might already have it. Like
I know
we might have had it. Who knows?
I know. There is just, and there's some people that test for the antibodies and then they have positive symptoms. Like none of it makes sense. So gotta just live your life, I think.
Stay healthy, stay smart.
And live, travel, eat local foods, watch The Taste of Australia.
Yeah, okay, that's it.
Wait, hang on. I got a couple more and then we're wrapping up. So, okay, we're never getting out of it, which makes this next question weird. But because usually it's like, okay, when we do look back on this, but okay, let's say in like 2-3 years when we're reflecting back on these times, because we'll still be in it maybe somehow. Who are we all going to look at as the country that handled it the best? Who's the golden child and who's the golden fuck up on the other side?
I feel like us Australians can be pretty proud of how we handled it. I feel like New Zealand is very much.
I could have bet money that that's what you were going to say.
Yeah, New Zealand is a shining star, but you know they're an outlier because they're so small. Their population is tiny. They're completely isolated from the rest of the world. They can shut things down really quickly. And I think they have a very respectful population like Australia. And it's also very much New Zealand lives an outdoor life just like Australia does. So New Zealand is definitely the shining star. I think Australia's come in pretty close second. And then some of those Scandinavian countries seem to have done or had a different approach to other countries and done quite well. And then you look at countries like China as well. They've fucking nailed it too. Like that's where it all started and it exploded. And now it's like back to business as normal.
Yep. Yep. The way, I don't know if you know this, but they rolled out an education system for the entire country in one day and it didn't crash. I mean, I forget how many students. I had interviewed a teacher over there. I couldn't believe it. China has done a great job as much as we like to paint it out like they didn't over here. I'm with you. And New Zealand. Okay. Flip side.
Obviously the US is going to be in a bit of trouble. And then, basically the whole of the Americas continents, South America, North America seems to be a struggle. I think the difference between some of the South American, Central American countries to you guys is the fact that you're a first world country, whereas a lot of those countries down south are, potentially in a third world category. And there's completely different living conditions and opportunities and all that sort of stuff, which you've got to take into effect. But then you look at North America, which is meant to be the shining light of the world, still struggling. But I think and this is not to sound rude to
That's
Americans.
putting it lightly.
I think it's got a lot to do with the fact that you guys feel you have too many rights and you don't want to listen to your government. It's like, oh, I can go to work. I'm like, why can you stop me? It's like, fucking just stay inside for like 6 weeks, shut it down, and you'll be fucking sweet, I promise. And that's what they pretty much did here. Like, everyone just listened.
It's infuriating. It's infuriating. And it's really hard. I mean, you talk about Australia being big. The US is a massive fucking country. Massive. And we think
people everywhere. It's in Australia, we're big, but there's like people here and there's a few people here and there's a couple of little people here and a few there. And then there's nothing else.
People everywhere. And there's people of widely varying backgrounds, beliefs, experiences. I mean, if you look at a political overlay of the 2016 election results with where the coronavirus is right now, the hotspots, I mean, you can assume what I'm implying here. So it's challenging because you've got states that are crushing it. Like the whole Northeast is good. Like they're going down and they should be reopening. But how can they do that when we have people going all over the country that are in states like Texas and California right now that are going nuts? I mean, it's going to be wild. So anyway, okay. The last thing that I like to end this on always, and by the way, out of everybody that I've interviewed for this, which by this point, let's say is around 100 people specifically for the Corona Diaries, there's only been one person, you kind of alluded to it, that has said another country other than the US is the fuck up, which is Brazil. Because
Brazil's
horrendous. I mean, yeah. So anyway, okay, to end on a positive note, the truth is in darkness is when light shines the absolute brightest. When tragedy happens, the human spirit shines. And not just the human spirit, the planet has shone, past tense of shone through this, all as well. And I say all that to know is like as much hardship, death, tragedy, hard times with business, all of this, there have been some really good things that have come out of this and that will continue to come out of this. So I'd love to know from your perspective, Hayden, what good have you already seen from Australia, New Zealand, other countries, the planet, your friends, family, business? What good have you seen and what good do you think is going to happen?
On a small scale, a very local micro family scale, when we first went into our lockdown, gyms were closed, this was closed. You weren't allowed to, mingle with other family groups, and you couldn't, do this and do that. So one thing I noticed and you saw families going out for a bike ride with like mom and dad and 3 kids, families going out for a walk and like just in their family unit, because you weren't allowed to go and see like my family. You couldn't go and hang out with your family. You couldn't have a play date. It was just like you had to be with your family and that was your unit. So it was really lovely to see families coming together, spending time, going for bike rides, having picnics, walking down the beach, all these little things that, have been distracted by, it sounds really weird, but work, people working from home now, they can spend the morning with the kids. They can get them ready for school. They can be there when they have to pick them up from class at the end of the day. You can have time to prepare a much more beneficial, healthy, nourishing meal by having, instead of commuting for an hour every day, you've got an extra 2 hours, 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the afternoon to cook a meal, spend time with the family, sit down, converse, hang out. And I felt like that was a really, really cool thing that I saw, from the outside, just looking at other families and the way they worked and seeing people online like, oh, I want to cook this, or I'm trying to cook that. Or, from a food perspective, people sitting down, sharing a meal. They couldn't go out to dinner. Takeout was a bit weird for a while there. People were a little worried. They could still get fresh food. We always had so much amazing fresh produce here in Australia. So yeah, that was for me I guess one of the benefits, and hopefully that's something that sort of lays over into the future. We continue that family connection.
Yeah, it's like kind of getting back to the basics of being human. The things that like should have always been there that somehow we forgot because of the craziness of life. That I'm with you. I hope that stuff sticks. And okay, I'm sorry. I thought that was going to be my last question, but it can't be because you just reminded me. What's been the coolest thing you've cooked during quarantine? If you've had time to cook, what's been your favorite thing?
The coolest thing I've cooked during quarantine, gosh.
Or like a favorite new recipe you've come up with. I don't know.
I think, well, we were fortunate. When we were out on the road, I do a lot of cooking like outdoors. So I cook over like campfires and, different incredible setups. And one of my favorite cooks was the very first cook we did for the first episode of season 2 of Taste of Australia. This beautiful creek behind us, slowly bubbling along. There was a platypus in there. One of the guys saw it. It was really amazing. We had this beautiful fire, incredible beef, and it was freezing cold. Had a beanie on, my big like oilskin jacket. And that was just a really special moment because 1, we didn't think we'd be doing what we were doing. 2, I was doing it with some of my best friends. And 3, it was just a beautiful, amazing location. The sun was setting and the food tasted incredible. And I was sharing it with, new friends, which is pretty special.
Fuck yes. Everything about that sounds brilliant, especially the platypus.
The little platypus, yeah.
Like among everything else, I don't know why in my head they don't feel like real animals.
They don't look like real animals.
That is so cool. It's pretty wild how the set and setting really can make a meal. The food, obviously.
100%.
But the people that you're with and the environment you're in, it adds everything. So I love that. I can't wait to check out Taste of Australia season 2. Okay, that's really all I had for you. It's been so amazing chatting. I'd want to give you an opportunity, Hayden. Is there anything else that you want to say on the record as of June 30th / July 1st, 2020, of your experience living through the coronavirus?
No, I think, firstly, thank you for having me. It's been amazing. And I think number 2, I think we all need to be respectful of each other, understand that it's a tough time, but it's a time that the whole world needs to come together as one. And be safe, be clean, and stay connected. I think that's the most important thing.
Yes, stay connected. I love that, to end it on that. And honestly, thank you, Hayden. The pleasure was all mine. It was a blast chatting. I want to make sure people know where they can find you. So your podcast, let's give a little shout out to that, about the roving mic. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So the roving mic, basically, it's sort of, as the title suggests, it's me with a microphone out and about in the world and around the world, when we could do those sorts of things. So yeah, meeting cool people in amazing places and talking about their story. So it's a great little series. Hopefully I get back onto doing some more of that. But like I said, the TV show sort of filled things up of late. But yeah, have a listen, people.
Okay, amazing. So they can find the roving mic on iTunes, for example?
Yeah, it's iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, all your regular podcasts.
Everywhere you can find a podcast, you can
exactly,
find the roving
that's where
mic.
you'll get it.
Perfect.
That's where you'll get it.
And season 2 of Taste of Australia comes out July 25th.
That's it. Season 2, Taste of Australia, 25th of July, airing here initially in Australia. So anyone listening from Australia, it'll be on Channel 10, Saturday, 25th of July, or you can catch it on 10 Play, which is the online platform. Maybe if you're international, you could throw a VPN on there and pretend like you're in Australia and watch it online. I don't know. But we're working on our international distribution. And like you said, hopefully with the lack of content in the world, we can sell it to the US and other countries around the world.
Let's hope so. And for people that are listening in Sydney and mainly, do you have vacancies available at your gym, the Cube, for membership?
Of course, yeah, 100%. Yeah, if you're on the Northern Beaches, come visit us, the Cube Gym. We're right in Brookvale. So yeah, we have an incredible community of people who love to stay fit and healthy. And yeah, it's not too serious. It's just a great cruisy atmosphere with amazing coaches and yeah, a whole lot of fun. Plenty of kettlebells.
Love it. And by the way, for people that aren't by where you are in Australia, but maybe they're at home with their own kettlebells, can they take your classes online? They can
take our the Cube Gym at home workouts. You just need to head over to thecubegym.com.au and there's a tab there for the Cube Gym at home, and you can join us in the gym. You can watch on your laptop, you can watch on your phone, your tablet, whatever it is, and they're full sessions. Kettlebell orientated for the most part, but we have meditation, yoga, Pilates, stretching, motivational speakers, all sorts of stuff on there, which is pretty cool.
Brilliant. Amazing. And is there anywhere else where people could or should find you these days, Hayden?
I guess Instagram's the classic. So it's at Hayden_Quinn, or over on Facebook, just search my name and I'll pop up.
Fabulous. We'll put links to all this stuff too.
Awesome.
It was so amazing having you. Thank you so much, Hayden.
No, thank you. It's been incredible. And I can't wait to see it all come together and continue watching more of the episodes.
Yeah, you and me both. Okay. Okay, recording is... Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the One World, Your Story podcast. If you enjoyed hearing this story and you wish to hear more, make sure you subscribe to us on iTunes and YouTube, and of course, follow us on Instagram at One World, Your Story. From all of us here at the One World, Your Story podcast, we are sending you so much joy and love. Have a wonderful rest of your day.